Hello, everyone. This is Seewing Yee. Hello to my Yee Network members and our YouTube subscribers as well. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce to you our new network partner, Jim Shields and Southern Impression Homes from Florida. Jim came highly recommended by our friend and our primary network loan advisor, Richard Advani, who had not only done hundreds of investment loans for Jim's investor clients over the past 10 years, but also bought a number of rental properties from Southern Impression Home himself. Now, Jim's company is a full service, one-stop shop turnkey provider that has a decade-long successful track record of helping out-of-state remote and passive mom-and-pop investors achieve generational wealth. Furthermore, Jim's company provides a build-to-rent investment model for investors. This means Jim provides cash flow new builds, single-family homes, duplexes, and fourplexes quads located in the path of growth in affordable submarkets in various strategic locations in Northeast Florida, West Central Florida, and Southwest Florida. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Jim Shields.
It's great to be here today, Seewing. Thank you. And again, Richard Avante has been a friend of mine for over 10 years. We've done hundreds of loans together. We've also done properties together. Richard has bought a number of properties through our new construction model. He's been not only a friend, a client, but also a primary lender for us. It's definitely a good mix. My name is Jim Shields. I'm a partner with Southern Impression Homes. My wife and I wrote something last year called the Passive Income Playbook, and it's about how to leverage build-to-rent real estate to buy back your time and create a legendary family life. And for me, Seewing, a legendary family life simply means all the things I dreamed of doing as a child and my parents couldn't do, I wanted to do with my family. And that's what real estate has been able to provide for me and give me the time to do it. My life has always been about the adventure. I love spending cold summers up in Nova Scotia and warm winters in our house in Costa Rica. And real estate is what's made that happen. I always wanted to be able to do the things that my father didn't get to do. I lost my dad about 2 years ago. He struggled his whole life with money. That is until I was able to retire him many years ago. But through most of his adult life, he struggled with money. And I always wanted to be able to do the things I dreamed of, whether it was keep surfing or visit my roots. I'm big into family history. So here's the picture of my great-grandfather's home in Ireland that's been in my family for 142 years. I joke, Seewing, that's our longest buy and hold in the family for all of our real estate investors. Got to trace back and stand at my great-grandmother's grave, which was a very emotional thing for me. But all these things were paid for by real estate. These are all I could have never had the time, even running the company without my own real estate investments. And finding out about my family history again, which is just one of my hobbies, I saw that this little store in Ireland is where my entrepreneurial roots and actually real estate investing began with my great-grandfather. My family takes up a lot of my time, and I'm not ashamed to say that. Yes, I have a big business, but I know that I was taught by a mentor, 18 years of 18 summers goes by quick, and then they become adults. So I always wanted to make the most of this time, and real estate helped me do that time. Real estate also helped my wife and I create a book about family. I'm proud to say 2 weeks ago, our third edition of the Family Board Meeting was released, and we went to #1 on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list. And all of this, every bit of it, started and was paid for by our real estate portfolio. Going back to my own dad, he had a dream. He had this Hallmark card on my mom's table, on their dresser in their room, my whole life growing up. And it was this couple in a white outfit walking down a Caribbean beach. And my dad had written, we're going to go some places like this with our family someday, but someday never came. My dad struggled with money his whole life. That is until I got into real estate myself and I was able to retire my parents. And for the last 15 years of his life, he got to do these things, but a lot of his life, he wasn't able to. I actually also, dad being a big part of my story, I was able to donate a kidney with it to him 10 years ago. That was all funded by real estate. If I didn't have my real estate in place, I could have never done something that severe to be able to save his life and at least get an extra 10 years with him, which I greatly cherished. My family, again, we were able to grow our family through our real estate portfolio. Here we are in front of a judge 2 years ago, 40 friends in the courtroom, adopting our 5th child. We decided one more was going to be good for us. And again, all of this was made possible by real estate. We do service operations in several different countries, building houses, working in orphanages, just something that's dear to my heart. Again, our real estate is paid for every dime of that. Now, my promise to you, the reason I tell you all this is because it's never about the real estate. It's about what the real estate can provide. Over 20 years experience and almost $1 billion in deals, we're going to be able to show you how to build a passive income, active lifestyle for you and your family. And I like to show, well, people say, how did you get to over $40,000 a month in passive income from your investments? And again, a lot of people say, I want to make sure that I'm listening to someone who has been there, done that. So I have my transactional real estate business building houses. But as you can see, this is from my CFO, where some of you might know. I was averaging at the end of December about $42,692 a month in passive income from my real estate. And that is a building block that you can follow. And I think you can do it in a fraction of the time that I did, because I didn't have all of the assistance of teams like you have today, especially with the new construction turnkey system. Now, our sweet spot at Southern Impression Homes is residential real estate, single family, duplexes, and quads. So you can get that great residential financing from Richard. Again, he's done hundreds of loans for us. And also, these are in high demand. We know that especially through the pandemic, these lower densities rented really well and had great growth, not only in rent, but in value as well. Right now, Southern Impression Homes, so you know, has over $637 million worth of property under asset management. It produces about $44 million a year in annual recurring revenue for our investors, which has created almost $160 million in equity for our investors. There's over 850 current investors working with us, and that grows daily. We have over 7,500 units developed and growing, over 8,000 residents living in our homes, and over 170 employees on our team to help make this all happen. We did about $182 million in sales last year. That was, again, a big growth from 10 years earlier when this was just an experiment, Seewing. We started with about $3 million worth of property that we built as an experiment. It's great to see where it was able to go. And I think the principles that we followed are why, and we'll go over those in a minute. We figure with all of the work we've done with different families, for the investors, for the tenants, we've impacted over 375,000 families. And we feel with the track we are on right now in Florida, especially having 6,000 more lots in inventory now, we're going to impact over 1 million families with our build to rent program. Now, we have 10 simple principles that we follow that are going to help people steer the right way, which I'm sure you teach, Seewing, and something that are going to save the headaches that I and my wife went through while building our own personal portfolio. First thing is we look to invest for the long term. If you're looking to flip houses or be in and out in 6 to 8 months, that can be a great short-term strategy, but we're not for you. What we look to do is we build the most wealth that I've built is by holding a property long-term and looking long-term with it. These are the long-term fundamentals that we follow, and the properties that we build, the property portfolios that we build for our investors are a long-term approach. And when people look to the long-term, and we'll show you some case studies, these are one of the best ways to build an incremental, sustainable, passive income. Now, second thing is real estate makes money in 5 different ways. Cash flow is important. But cash flow is not the only thing that I look at. There's 5 different things I look at that our sales counselors will go over with you that you're able to make money on as well. And if when you look at the whole 5 picture, it's a totally different approach. If I only looked at cash flow, I would have gone and bought really cheap houses in the Midwest. And that's nothing wrong with that. I know a lot of people do that. But for me, I wanted areas that were poised for growth and also had cash flow. That's why I landed in Florida. And you want to invest in good areas and good neighborhoods. I know there's a lot of back and forth on this, Seewing, but I've found that going to tougher neighborhoods don't work as well. When I've looked at more sustainable, for more long-term approach, for easier paths to wealth, good areas and good neighborhoods are one of the best ways to go. And I also avoid fixer-uppers. Now, we all like to sit and watch the shows on TV. Those are very exciting. But rehab surprises, and again, I've done over 1,000 rehabs. When you do those, they're not that exciting. Fixer-uppers can create something called deferred maintenance that continues. And again, I own a lot of older houses, but I know that from the older houses, my maintenance and repairs are going to be higher. And I've also learned if you get an old home and you don't fix it up right in the beginning completely, your maintenance and repairs can eat away at your profits for a very long time and take away a lot of what you're trying to create. We also believe that experts should manage your property. Seewing, I don't like managing my own property. I don't enjoy it. I think it's the cheapest part of the game with the biggest potential headache. So I'd rather make sure that I subcontract that out to someone else. So I encourage you, if you all want to self-manage, you can. 90+% of our people use our management company because they see the expertise. They see that we have systems in place. And I believe that's one of the keys to long-term buy and hold real estate. So I encourage you to work with experts in property management. And remember, your properties are not for charity. I learned this lesson very hard many years ago, Seewing. When I bought my first properties in Bakersfield, California, and I was managing them myself, I got very emotional with them. And this isn't to be cruel to anyone, but I took a lot of excuses for tenants that I probably didn't screen properly either. And I found that they weren't paying me rent, but I was paying my mortgage. And I like to give to other charities. As I showed you, we're involved with orphanages in Guatemala and building houses in Mexico and Costa Rica. If I give charity in my rentals, I can't do those things. And my mortgage is still due at the end of the month. So I always encourage people to remember that your rentals and your charity work are completely separate. And one thing that helps me with that is I let experts manage my property so I don't get that emotionally attached to that outcome. Also, this is really important right now. In the last 3 years, things have changed. If you want to invest your money into real estate, I think you have to look to see if it's landlord friendly or landlord unfriendly. Because if push comes to shove and there comes a long period of time where you cannot collect your rent in states where they are just very favorable towards the tenant, you put yourself at a great risk. And this isn't a political thing, but I just look to see, is a state more friendly to landlords or more friendly to tenants? Florida is one of the most landlord-friendly places in the world, I think. If a tenant doesn't pay, they can have to leave within 40 days, opposed to other states where it's several months and months. And that can be really hard on your cash flow and also not give you the purpose of why you're doing real estate. The real estate's there to support you, not the other way around. You want to plug into a support team. That's why we're talking to you, Seewing. That's why Richard started working with us years ago. He's a great lender, but he didn't want to have a second job besides his mortgage company. He wanted to have investments. So he plugged right into our support team. And if you're looking to not have a second or third job, you want a support team. Otherwise, you create low-paying jobs for yourself. Do you really want to screen each tenant? Do you really want to handle each maintenance repair? Do you really want to follow up every time that the tenant is late? Do you really want to figure out how to get land entitled and approved to be able to build on it? That's where our support team comes in. Our support team can take all of those headaches off of your plate without you creating a second or third job. And I'd encourage you, no matter who you work with, and Richard is great, and I know Seewing, you work with people, only work with build-to-rent companies if they're building new construction homes for investors with a profitable track record. Do they own their own properties? Have they built more than 500 properties? Because I think under 500, they still could be great, but know that they're still in the startup phase of getting the mechanics of how this works. So you really want to look to work with people who are in the build-to-rent companies and profitable track record. And I encourage you, of course, and I know we've talked about this, Seewing, is never stop learning. I am constantly learning, going to more classes, listening to more podcasts on the real estate business. And that's something we continue to share with our investors. Anything we're learning on the market, whether it's about interest rates, inflation, landlord laws, new construction techniques, we're going to share with you. Now, who is our typical investor? Our typical investor is the person who wants us to find the deal for them, help them get financing, and then manage the whole deal process of getting it built and getting it managed. I'll tell you a little bit about a couple of people. So Tom Tusnot is a client of ours. He was in the Air Force, ran a mortgage company. He retired just 2 years ago from our rental properties. He jokes that our last investment property helped pay for his new airplane. His hobby, although mine's surfing, Tom loves flying. That Air Force in him has never left him. And not only was he able to keep that hobby, but you can see his wife, Kathy, here on the left, she needed a kidney donation. He wanted to be out of work so that he could be fully focused on that. So him and I had that in common, the thing with my father and his wife, and he's done very well. Tom started with this simple duplex about 5 years ago. He had a purchase price of $314. The property's now worth $519. The original rents were $2,400. Now they're over $3,400. And this was all an initial investment, getting a loan from someone like Richard for $88,000 into the property. Now, Tom went in to build a small portfolio, which most of our clients do. As I told you, Seewing, our most successful clients usually buy between 3 and 7 properties. Tom went all in after that first property. And you can see these numbers, and we can get slides of these to everyone out there. You can see the incremental growth that he's had since 2019 investing into these properties. And today, Tom is at over $1 million in equity with his properties, and his cash flow is over $11,000 a month. That's what our new construction model has created from him. On something very cool, when I showed you guys that picture of me in the courtroom with my new adopted daughter, Tom and I had stayed in touch on different family things. He wrote to me that day to find out about the adoption. And I said, "How are you doing? And how's your wife?" And he wrote this text. If you can see that, he wrote, "I retired from Fairway Mortgage yesterday. You played a big part in allowing that to happen. Thank you." This is why we do what we do. How do we help people like Tom and you buy back your time, create that legendary family life? And it's always through investment, passive income, rental real estate. Dr. Amina Goodwin. Amina's got a great story, immigrated to the US many years ago, became a successful doctor in internal medicine in New York City, and has a young family, and she wanted to supplement the income so she'd have something to fall back on. She doesn't want to get out of being a doctor. She's a great doctor. She loves it, but she does want some space, and she does want some other income coming in, not dependent on her career. Amina went in and bought 3 properties pretty quickly, and they all had similar growth, where we're looking purchase price, the current price, and you can see how both the values and the rents have climbed on all of her properties. And Amina actually went in and bought a few more properties on top of this. Today, her cash flow is a little under $6,000, and it might actually be over $6,000 because these are a few months old. Her equity is a little over $800,000. Again, how were they able to do this, Seewing? All they were able to do was follow our system to get into our single family duplex and quad properties, build a small portfolio, let us manage it. And then as the properties grew in value and in equity, they were able to refinance sometimes out and put it into more investments or to pay something else off. And now they use these portfolios as an alternative source of income to support their families.
Jim, sounds very impressive.
We just wanted to make sure that you have that. Again, we do have a book coming out this fall called the Passive Income Playbook, Seewing. We'll make sure everyone in your group gets a free copy of it. But again, it does expand into this conversation of what we were talking about, of how do you actually leverage into rental real estate? How do you make it truly passive? And the new construction model has been one of the best ways I've found in 24 years.
Absolutely, Jim. This is a great presentation. It's our core investment philosophy, our core value within my network and myself is very similar. I've been to over 50 countries so far in my life, and I have at least 50 countries to go. Just like your family, we love to travel, and real estate so far has provided me the opportunity to do these kind of things. And my adult children also have the traveling bug. Ever since they were very small, we take them everywhere, all over the world. They continue to travel, enjoy life, and that's what's all about. Create a real estate portfolio that will sustain your life. You can focus on energy, on people you care and love, your family, your friends, immediate family members, your legacy, generational transfer, wealth. And also, I love your top 10 investing methodologies. To me, it's 10 commandments of real estate investing. You can use that narrative. Your core value is similar to ours, and our investors are very, very busy. We have engineers and healthcare professions. Members from our organization over the years have purchased Turnkey properties from a network, although we would promote other markets in the US as well. But to be honest, Florida has been and always will be my number one real estate investment strategy, because personally, I purchased a number of rental properties in Florida over the past 20 years. And in fact, I closed a recent property a couple of months ago. I closed escrow on a single family home in Ocala. Investors need to understand, regardless of what's happening right now, the challenging real estate market, what have you, have to focus on investor have to focus on their unique goals. They have to just ignore all the negative headlines out there. I like your investment philosophy because I know Florida so well. Your location that you're promoting is the path of growth. Venture into the sub-markets, into the suburbs, beyond the primary metro, similar Central Florida, Southwest Florida, Northeast Florida, same thing, because as prices getting elevated over the years. I remember when we used turnkey providers that helped us invest in Florida in the past, and I remember a mere 5, 6, 7 years ago, a single family home in Orlando was only like $150,000. Now they're like $400,000. The number does not make sense. Therefore, as we see job growth and population growth and the path of growth and the massive migration of people all over the country, not just retirees, but millennials or migrating into Florida ever since the post-pandemic. This trend of migration into Florida, which is the fastest growing state in the country, Florida, continues to receive a lot of population growth.
I agree with everything you said. I'd like to go into a little bit of market fundamentals and some actual properties that are available. All right. So right there, Seewing, maybe we should stop and then we'll start the next one.